Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the MLB slate for Monday. We have a massive 12-game slate tonight, starting at 7:05, so let's go ahead and get right into it. As always, appreciate you guys to the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you guys had a good weekend, and let's get started. So we'll look at the lineups and the totals for this big 12-game slate. We have a couple of weather games. Mainly the biggest one is the Mets game. Could get postponed today. Mets against Phillies. That game could have been a good one to get some offense from, but probably won't have that one to pick from. We still have plenty of other great spots. So looking at the first game, we have Kramer against Justice Sherfield. Sherfield is a high prospect for the Mariners. Hasn't really got it going yet. Tough for a lefty against all these righty-heavy teams, and I don't want to consider playing him against the Orioles, even though there are strikeouts in this lineup, but they do have some power with Franco, Mancini, Santander, Severino, and they have some speed in the lineup as well. So I'm not really looking at going with the Orioles stack. I don't think I want to stack up the Mariners either. You could go with a couple of one-offs with like Mitch Haniger just because it gives you some power and batting at the top of the lineup. He's cheap, only $3,800. You have some more value in here with like if Evan White is in their first base option with some pop at only $2,900. Probably stick to some one-offs on the Mariners side instead of stacking them. One of my favorite stacks today is going to be the Yankee stack against Robbie Ray. Just looking at this lineup here for the Yankees against Ray. Ray strikes people out, but he gives up a ton of walks. And looking at this righty-heavy team for the Yankees, I think he's going to be in for a rude awakening here. So a lot of these guys crush lefties, especially Giancarlo Stanton. And he basically is a two-pitch pitcher, fastball, slider. Occasionally mixes in the curveball, but we know these Yankees guys are going to tee off against the fastball. Looking at these ISOs, 500 ISO. It's only a one batted ball event, so that can't really, I don't know how that's accurate. But Torres over 600 ISO against the fastball by lefties. Judge over 300 ISO, bottom of the order. Frazier, Urshela, even Bruce, lefty mashes that pitch. Slider, different story for these guys, but they still have a guys with over 200 ISO. Urshela, Frazier, Sanchez, Stanton. I don't know why it's a one batted ball event. Stanton definitely has more events there. Don't know if the data hasn't been updated yet, but we can also look at Fangraphs for Giancarlo Stanton. For this season for Stanton, it's only been 10 at-bats against lefties. He has 3 hits in them. All 3 did go for just a single, but he's a guy that hits lefties super well going back his entire career. Last year, only had 17 at-bats, so that sample is really small. Back to 2019, batted .286 with 1 bomb against lefties, also injured during a lot of that year. I guess we'll just look at his career numbers just to kind of see. He's batting .294 compared to .259. The ISO is 332 against lefties compared to 260 against righties. Hits the ball super hard against them, 46% hard hit rate. I mean, Stan is going to be one of the better spend-ups in the outfield today. Glasnow is going to be one of my favorite pitchers to target. Even Gerrit Cole is in the mix here. Gerrit Cole and Glasnow. I think people will lean to Glasnow going up against a team with a lower total, almost a full like 0.7 runs, closer to a run total. Difference between the Rangers and the Blue Jays. Blue Jays lineup is a lot more powerful, even though the Rangers have gotten off to a fine start this year. And Glasnow is pitching in the better ballpark, so I think Glasnow will get more ownership, and I kind of agree with that. I don't really want to look to a full-on Rays stack. I would look to some lefties as one-offs with like Tedesco if he bats leadoff at just $3,600. Meadows been having a good start to the year. Brandon Lau. Those 3 would be the main guys I'm kind of considering. The Marlins against the Braves, not a game where I want to get too much pieces from. I do like Alcantara as a pitcher. The Braves have a 5-run total, but I'm not sure if I want to go with a full-on stack here. Alcantara is a good pitcher. He keeps the ball on the ground most of the time. He can get into some trouble with a home run or two like a lot of people, but he's not a gas can, and I don't really think that total is accurate, especially if the Braves get a lot of ownership today. Just by people looking at that total, I think I'll definitely go elsewhere. The next game, you have Peralta and Alzolay, same matchup as these two guys faced last time they both pitched. I love Peralta. He was the underdog in that one. Now they made him the favorite. Peralta was great last time out against the Cubbies. I think he will have another good game. The wind is blowing out, so it's a little bit of a risk here, but I think it makes for a great SP2 option on DraftKings. Cardinals are another team to look at as a stacking option against Eric Fedde. Fedde is not a very scary pitcher. And at his stats, 5.74 xFIP, only a 12% K rate. Strikeout and walk rate is almost the same, which definitely is not good. Looking at his pitch mix, he does mix in a bunch of pitches, but None of them are very effective. As you see, 400 plus ISO given up to his fastball, 300 plus to his splitter, 200 plus to his sinker, and even his slider that he doesn't throw that much, he gets hit hard against that. Definitely looking at a Cardinal stack a bit here, especially guys like Arenado, Goldie, Edman at the top of the order. At the bottom, you can go with like Carlson as a guy that gives you pop at the bottom of the order. And then the other stack, definitely the Astros. I think people will go to them. They're probably behind a couple of teams for me today, but I think they're in play. And I don't think I'll go to Greinke when I have Glasnow and Garrett Cole on the slate. They just give you better strikeout upside, so I'll definitely try to get to those guys instead of going to Zach Greinke. Angels against the Royals, Singer against Alex Cobb here. I like the Angels more than the Royals in this one. Cobb is like a veteran pitcher. He can had a stretch where he was really bad, but he's kind of been fine over the past couple years, basically last year and part of 2019. And this Royals lineup is powerful, but the middle half hasn't really got going. Solera's been slow to start this year. Santana has been all right after the opening day where he was good. But I'd rather lean to the Angels stack here with Ohtani, Trout, Walsh. Give you a ton of pop. Fletcher gives you some upside and some speed at the top of the lineup. I don't think I want to go with the White Sox stack today against McKenzie. He has a lot of talent. I would lean to going with some cheap guys here in this lineup, or a couple of one-offs. You can always go with Abreu as a one-off. Always go with Robert as a one-off, and then you have Vaughn at $2,800 if you need a cheap option today. He's probably going to be one of the cheaper guys in the starting lineup that at least gives you some sort of upside. Now, probably my favorite stack today is going to be the A's stack. I love the A's today. Going up against Madison Bumgarner. A lot of these guys mash left-handed pitching, and we can look at this stuff on Plate IQ. But the A's are going to be the team that I'm going to have a lot of my lineup filled out with in my hitters. Just because I don't trust Bumgarner. 6+ xFIP. Strikeouts are down. The walk rate is fine. But the fastball, the fly ball percentage is over 40%. And these guys mash left-handed pitching. You can look at Fangraphs, but basically you have Marcana hits those real pitches really well. Hits especially the fastball. He hits lefties really well. Laureano's been great this year. He hits lefties really, really well. Chapman's better against lefties. Piscotty mashes lefties. So those three are really good. And you have Jed Lowry as a really cheap guy batting like third in the lineup who's gotten going recently. So fastball throws about 37% of the time. We can look at his cutter. Don't really have his cutter. You have Canna, Olsen, Chapman, Piscotty all hit that pitch really, really well. And the last pitch he throws a little bit is the curveball, which Olsen tees off of. Laureano tees off on that. So I love the A's today. They're going to be my favorite stack. And the last game, you can go to some SP2 pitchers here, Aaron Sanchez or Miley. You don't really want to stack at night in that ballpark. So looking back at DraftKings, looking at the pitchers that we can pick from, so kind of did a bit of a narrowing down of which ones or which direction I'm going to go. It's going to be Glasnow, and it's probably going to be another SP2 that's a bit cheaper. And for me, looking at guys that are in the 7 and 6K range, there's like 3 or 4 guys that I'm considering. Peralta is my favorite at $7,700 just because he gives you the most strikeout upside out of anybody in that group. And then you can look to going with some of the guys in the later games with Aaron Sanchez against Cincinnati. They have a pretty low total. You can go in the other way and go with Wade Miley. But those are the main couple that I'm considering. But Peralta and Glasnow, Peralta gives you a ton of strikeout upside. He does give you some risk with the walks, as he has 7 walks in 7 innings this year. But he got up to 91 pitches, which was great to see. If he wasn't walking a lot of guys in that game, he probably could have got to 6+ innings. And same lineup against the Cubs at home. So hopefully he has another very solid game. And the stacks are the ones that I mentioned on the earlier part here. So looking at the first base options, see if we can kind of get to any of these guys here. Olsen is a lefty-lefty, so I would not really want to go. I mean, it wouldn't be a core piece in my stack. You can always go with them because anytime somebody sees lefty-lefty, they kind of avoid them in their stacks, and they end up being a lot lower owned. So for tournaments, he looks like a great option. But I like Ohtani a lot. 45 against Singer. Gives up, his xFIP is super high against lefties. Ohtani gives you a lot of pop, even stolen base upside. So he's a guy I would consider at only $4,500. DeGutso, if he's batting at the top of the lineup, he would be in the mix as a candidate here at $3,600 against Dunning. If Yandy Diaz is in lineup, which usually is just against lefties, but if they happen to keep him in there against righties, today, after his good game yesterday, he would be interesting. And then for value, it's like Evan White. If he's in the lineup, $2,900. You also have Vaughn at $2,800. Been struggling so far, but he's their top prospect. He's going to get it going soon. And, no better time than hopefully a spot where he's only $2,800 at potentially lower ownership. Second base, it is Merrifield is $5,900. I can't get to him on this slate because I don't want to stack up the Royals, and I don't want to go to him as a one-off when I'm paying up, for a stud pitcher in Glasnow. I just won't be able to allocate that much cap for Whit Merrifield. I like Edman a bit if you wanted to get up to a guy over 5K. He is expensive, though, so you can go cheaper for a David Fletcher. $4,600 batting leadoff. I like Jed Lowry today. He's only $3,700. He gives you upside just because he bats like third in the lineup. He's been hot recently over his last couple games. 2 hits in each of the last 2 games, and he hits lefties pretty well. So he's a guy that I will definitely have some interest in at the second base position just because he's super cheap and the position is not super deep as a whole. Third base, Ramirez, tough to get to him against the White Sox here. I like LeMahieu, but it's expensive price tag. You're going to have to go cheaper with your SP1 or even your SP2. I would rather go down to Chapman at only $4,400. I like Gio Urshela at $4,200. Both guys give you upside here, especially Urshela has been hitting the ball well recently. I think I had a 3-run home run or a 2-run home run in the 10th inning, which was nice. Actually, that looks like that was in the 3rd inning, but it seems like they had a home run in the 10th inning. I don't know who hit that one. Urshela, if he's $4,200, he also hits lefties well. There was some risk. He was dealing with COVID issues, but he's looked good over his last couple games. So he's a candidate to plug into your third base spot. Options here in the 3K range, if you needed to go cheap, it would probably be for maybe Franco, just because he gives you pop at that price tag. If Diaz is in the lineup at 39, he's not in the lineup every day, but if I happen to have him in here today, he would be in play. And that's kind of it. I don't really see any other guy unless some of these guys are starting at the top of the order or batting in the top half of the lineup. Shortstop, Trey Turner is 54. I mean, the Nationals are an interesting stack today. I don't think that many people will go to them against Gant. They definitely could because Gant's not a stud pitcher by any means. But they are kind of expensive, so they're not on my list of priorities. At this position, I'm going down for a Gleyber Torres, $4,500. We just saw how good he hits against those pitches that Robbie Ray throws. He's been off to a slow start, but he's a guy that I have confidence in will quickly get back to being the great player that he was last year and the year before that. He hits lefties well. We'll look at his splits here for Torres. So far this year, it's been just 10 at-bats. He has 2 hits against lefties. 2020, he batted .235 with 1 home run and just 40 at-bats, so another small sample size. Go back to 2018, he batted .286 with 9 home runs. Kind of get it all together in his career numbers. Bats .261, pretty similar to both sides of the plate. But the ISO is a lot higher against lefties, up to .262 compared to 199. And the hard hit percentage is 4.5 points higher. Fly ball rate's a little bit higher. Torres, good price tag. And I really like the Yankees today. I think they're going to put some bombs on the board against Robbie Ray. Then in the outfield, it's going to be the same kind of couple teams I'm looking at stacking. First guy is going to be Mark Canha just because he bats leadoff. He's only $3,900. He also hits lefties super well. Look at his numbers very quickly. And he's been off to a pretty good start this year. This is why he's been awarded the leadoff position. So he's a guy that you definitely can get into your lineup pretty easily. Back at 2020 for Mark Canha, he batted .333 against lefties in 42 at-bats, so that's a great average. Didn't have a home run, but hit for some pop in 2019 against lefties. Career-wise, .240 average. The pop is a little bit higher, 11 points higher. Strikeouts are down. So he's good against both sides of the plate. Pretty even, but he is better with a little bit of a higher ISO against lefties. And if he bats leadoff, could see 5 at-bats today against Bumgarner on the road. And then last guy is going to be Giancarlo Stanton, just because I'm going to be able to get up to at least one stud, and that's going to be Stanton today on a slate where I want to get up to at least a pitcher in Glasnow. So it's going to be tough to go to multiple expensive bats. But I love Stanton whenever he faces off against a lefty. He's been off to a slow start this year, but I'm not too worried about him, especially against a lefty. So hopefully people go off, some people will jump off of him, and he kind of has his double home run game that we know we probably will have multiple times this year. So that is it for the DK side. Let's go over to FanDuel. FanDuel, pitcher, you have Cole and Glasnow as your two most expensive guys, as you would expect. I think most people most people will try to get to one of those two, which I definitely agree with. If you want to be different, you can go down to like a Peralta, who's only 7,600, gives you upside in the 40s, possibly 50s if he isn't walking a lot of guys early, which increases pitch count. For me, I'm going to go ahead and Glasnow for now at 10.7. Catcher, first base, basically a couple stack options that I'm kind of considering. Like you can always go with Abreu, you can go with Goldie against Fetty. You can go down to a Gary Sanchez, $3,300. Love the Yankee stack today. You have Jared Walsh. I like him at 31. He's been great this year so far. And then you can go with a cheap option with like a. You can even go to some catchers. Nobody really likes to play catchers, but I think Stassi is in play at only $2,300 if you need a cheap option here. Those will be the couple that I'm looking at. Second base, it is Altuve is the guy I'd look at if you wanted to, just because I like their offense a little bit more than the Royals' offense today, so I'm not looking at Whit Merrifield much. I like DJ LeMahieu a lot at $3,600. Then you have some cheap plays here. Edman is just $3,100. You have Jed Lowry is down to like $2,700, I think, or maybe even might even be $300. Jed Lowry is only $2,400. They say he's batting seventh, but he's been batting at like the top of the lore. They usually are wrong. I usually think Fantasy Labs is a little bit more accurate in projecting who's going to start where. Yeah, he should probably bat around like the top half of the lineup. Here for Jed Lowry, $2,400 looks really good. Third base, you can go up for a Bregman if he's in lineup, a Ramirez, LeMahieu, or you can go cheap here, and the cheap guy I'll look at is only 20, or besides Matt Chapman is 32, but I like Urshela, who's only $2,400, probably bats like 6th in the lineup or 5th or 6th here. Really cheap. Lowry and Urshela both are super cheap in really good spots, so those are the two most guys I want to get to, just based on the price tags of those two. Then in the outfield, I'm definitely going to get up to Giancarlo Stanton at $3,600 just because he's affordable. Especially on FanDuel, he's cheap compared to his DraftKings salary, so it will definitely be easy to get to on FanDuel. And then I'm going to get to Marcana again. Actually, I think you can go to both Laureano and Canna look really good. I'll just get to Laureano. Both guys are pretty similarly priced. But Laureano also gives you stolen base upside. I don't know if it's tougher to run against a lefty, obviously, but hopefully you might be able to get on base against some of these relief pitchers if Bumgarner is not able to last long this game, which I don't think he will. And Laureano gives you pop speed, which you really like in your lineup, that combination. So that is it for the video. That's it for MLB today. Probably have an NBA video out soon, so keep an eye on that. Thank you guys for watching. Best of luck, and I'll catch you all next time.